Spoiler warning! This video will discuss plot elements of the ABC television show Twin Peaks and follow-up Showtime revival Twin Peaks: The Return, as well as minor references to the prequel movie Fire Walk with Me. While it will avoid most plot points not directly related to the subject matter of the video, that being the romance between Ed and Norma, it is best to go into this after having seen the series in full. If you have not seen the series, and you should, I would reconsider watching this until you have fully caught up. With all that said, enjoy the show!
So yeah, obviously curtains, not very red as would be expected. Just kind of red, but I don't have red curtains in my house, and clearly I don't put as much effort into people who actually do this for a living or are, good at it. And I would have had a suit, but I don't actually own any suits. I hate formal wear, so I just kind of went for the more rustic Americana kind of look that you see in the show a lot, which makes me look like my dad, one of the most Irish human beings I've ever met. So that's how that's working out. Anyway, yeah, Twin Peaks is a bleak show. Yet it's comfort for me. I don't know what it is about it, but the pastoral romanticism of the setting and the aesthetic of the town really matches well with the spectral horror that underpins it. Yet I don't think of the horror when I think of the show. I think of the humble and inviting sheriff's department, or the hopping but friendly double R diner, or the polished but rustic Grand Northern Hotel. It gets me in a place few other shows do, and really helps with Lynch's sensibilities and his ideas on time and the place we hold it in our memories. This is something explored in Blue Velvet, which came out a few years before Peaks, but this show kind of pronounces it more with its kind of antiquated 1950s aesthetic and moral values. The idea of time comes up in the prequel movie Fire Walk With Me, where we see plot elements that took place in the season 2 finale take place in this prequel when the famous Red Room, which itself is kind of locked out of time, with these creatures inhabiting it that are beyond our understanding. This is very pronounced in the sequel series, The Return. Bad luck. Not only in the metatextual sense that it was released 26 years after the end of season 2, but also in the fact that we come back to this comforting, warm Americana, but there's something more insidious that's bubbled up from the surface. A lot of things seem the same, even though we're kind of updated for contemporary times. Same double R diner, same sheriff's department. A lot of the residents feel like they've just kind of stayed in place within the last 2.5 decades. But at the same time, they're not more lost, deflated, and the town itself feels a lot meaner. And this feels very relatable to me personally, in as much as this series can be related to your own personal life, the idea of like staying still as time moves on and things become a lot nastier and meaner as we go forward. That feels sadly rather something that hits home. One of the things that helped me unlock what the return means wasn't so much any interviews from the cast or the crew or any kind of supplementary material. It was a Saturday morning breakfast cereal comic that deals with the concept of anthroponuclear multiple worlds theory. I'll link the comic below because I'm probably going to fuck up explaining this, but essentially, after the atomic bomb was built and the atomic age happened, it's less likely for us to still be, basically for the world to still be around, to be alive in this current time, than it was before something like this was created. The longer we go on, the stranger reality seems to be, because by all logical through line, we should all be dead. And I mean, it would be handy for this theory if atomic explosions were a prevalent motif within the return. And yeah, all that is terrifying, but you know what's really terrifying to me?
The possibility that love is not enough.
No, actually, that I will never change and fully form. That I will be stuck in this place forever. The more things are strange, the more they stay the same. And it's kind of ridiculous, honestly, because even at this time, a lot has changed in my life. A lot of improvements have been made. And, it's not really a logical thing. It's how I feel. And the thing about depression is it makes you hit at those weak points that you're vulnerable about yourself in order to exacerbate that feeling of dread, of doom. That is my weak point, that I haven't moved or changed at all since I was a teenager. I'm Dale Cooper sitting in the Red Room 25 years later. And the show hits on that insecurity. This small, quiet, idyllic little town trying its best to face with the realities of this ever-present dread and evil as it takes the life of a young person and shatters that perception that they have control over what is going on or that things can get better. And the idea of nothing changing leads to the circumstances in the narrative because we have this broken teenage girl who, because of the circumstances and the social conditioning surrounding her, wasn't able to break out of this conditioning and let her life wondering if things could ever get better. So there's a comfort and a horror within my relationship to Twin Peaks and the idea of things having this idyllic framework, but the insidious underneath gets worse as you don't feel like anything is changing. And one of the aspects of this that really exemplifies this theme, that if it's intentional or not, that's how I read it, is Ed and Norma. One of the things that always fascinated me about them is that they're in a weird place in the show. They don't actually have a lot to do with Laura's murder. I know Ed is in the Bookhouse Boys, but that's kind of a minor point, and that's kind of almost completely forgotten about after her case is solved. They kind of have to do with the criminal aspect of it because Norma's husband Hank is a criminal, but it's a very minor point in their kind of relationship. Actually, it's kind of funny to me that Hank is such a minor point in their relationship because he's clearly an obstacle, but the show doesn't really seem to care much about him at all, and neither do I. Fuck Hank. They have absolutely nothing connecting them to the whole spiritual, spectral horror stuff. What they do really hit on is the aching longing of time and the idea that things will stay in place rather than them reaching their own happiness. Because even when the show starts, they've been doing this dance for at least 20 years. However, social statures, resentments, misunderstandings, and a lot of guilt leads them away from being together. They end up in either convenient or one-sided marriages at a very young age. Ed's commitment to Nadine being more of guilt than of love after he injured her on their honeymoon and she lost her eye. Norma's terrified of her gangster husband. And also just the larger social pressures of getting divorced and that kind of stigma, which has kind of dissipated even by the 90s, but this is a very kind of antiquated, old-fashioned town. I can relate to that. I think a lot of people can. This kind of larger social pressure to like keep up the appearance that you are happy and you are content rather than finding some genuine emotional nourishment. And what's worse is that the show treats their love as a cosmic joke. Their plans to get divorced get interrupted after Hank gets out of prison, and Nadine's more kind of mental instability and harassment of Ed kind of pushes their plans away. Things then seem to work out after Hank is arrested for parole violation, and we just never see him again. Good riddance, fuck Hank. And Nadine has kind of mental regression into being an 18-year-old who's also a super strange and starts dating a high school student, which is not creepy at all. This subplot goes on for the entirety of season 2 and it never gets good. But because of this, Ed and Norma are able to be together. That comes crashing down pretty badly in season 2 when Nadine regains her memories and has a kind of mental breakdown, and that's where we leave everything. For 26 years. And like Ed and Norma, we're lost in this stasis. We wait for more Twin Peaks to happen. It's a familiar feeling. The crippling weight, a wasted potential. When we get back to our heroes, Ed and Norma are still in their cosmic dance, but they seem to have accepted their lot in life. Norma is franchising Double R Diner and is dating her business partner, while Ed is still with Nadine. We've traded the high-energy love quadrangle memory loss soap opera stuff for more kind of existential contemplation and angst-ridden prestige television drama. Their tones are different, but the misery remains the same. So damn, when Nadine shovels out of the shit and just tells Ed that their marriage is unsustainable and finally they break up properly, your heart just races in hopes that this is what we've been waiting for. But it's too late. Norma rejected the offer. Time moves on. They lost their chance.
Oh, too long. And I don't want to stop now. No, no, no. I've been loving you just a little bit too long.
Or maybe not. This scene really gives me hope because it works perfectly with the thematic kind of fulfillment of the series and its ethos, while also being one that's ridiculously hopeful and happy and spirited. But it's a wonderful rejection of the narrative stifles these three if you count Nadine, fuck Hank, they were trapped in. They rejected tradition, both socially and spiritually, that told them that their happiness was too far away for them to reach. They waited too long, and time is keeping them in their place. They say, fuck time. You don't need to copy and expand that business that you hold dear to heal a wound within your soul. You don't need to be trapped in the guilt of your past actions if it's truly making you and other people miserable. And I don't know, when they embrace in that beautiful song, which I can't really play much of, thanks to copyright, I get happy, I get giddy. It makes me think whatever happiness can fill that rut, it will come, and it will come for you. I mean, it took Ed and Norma 40 years of their time and 27 years of film and television to finally get that happiness. And yet, here they are, in their 60s, finally at peace. So yeah, who knows? Maybe there is a possibility that love is enough.